this is not a small topic at all. We're going to be discussing and sharing our knowledge with you of impact and how, as a man, that relates to you. You want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, you might think, oh yeah, I can't impact anybody, right? I don't have an impact. I can't have an impact. Even if I wanted to have an impact, I couldn't, right? I'm incapable of making an impact. We do,
And note,
already, if we like it or not. We're already making either a negative or a positive impact on what we do and how we live. Everybody's affected by us, all our surroundings. People are affected by you through your action, right? Either if you confirm their negative action or confirm their positive action by your own actions, right? Just when I said before, you are the average of the 5 people, right? We're all influenced by the people around us.
Daniel started off really strong with the fact that our first inclination is to believe that we don't have that kind of impact, that we don't have any impact on others and our surroundings, and that's because biologically our minds are trained to first assume the negative, right? We are inclined to assume the worst of most scenarios when we first step into them. So when we first ask ourselves questions like that, our answer is almost always no automatically, simply because as a survival tactic, it's something we've learned. Keep going.
Right. One thing I was going to add to that is you have an impact, whether you show, some type of weakness or strength. Strength, well, actually, let me back up a little bit, because, to have a positive masculine impact, to live and have ownership and take responsibility of your own life, if you look around you, how much do you see of that? Someone actually taking responsibility of their life, right? Full-fledged, living their purpose, that are strong internally, right? How often do we see that out there? Man living his positive masculine purpose. Right? It doesn't seem very often, right? When I talked about value placement, talked a little bit about, when things are like baseball cards, right? What makes a baseball card more valuable is there's not many of it, right? Same thing as you as a man. If you live a positive masculine life, there's not many of you. So what happens is you become more valuable to others. You become more valuable, and to have strength and to be strong is attractive, not just romantically, but also encouraging to others. People want to be around you. People want you to lead them, right? They want to be by your side, right? People want to trust you. And so that's what we can do, is you can make that impact by starting, obviously, within. By leading others, right? What's a very effective way to lead is by example. Ductus exemplo, right? Leading by example. Right? We try to change the world this way and that. We discover, it's not very effective if we, go out and try to change somebody. But it starts with ourselves. That's where the impact is. And living that life, living that purposeful, meaningful life, starts within. That's how we can do that. That's how we can make an impact. And that's what you're capable of.
Spot on. So let's ask ourselves, how do we impact the world? Right? We look around and we can instantly see answers, right? Again, there you see it, seek and you will find, right? When you look, the answers are there. When you look for opportunities, they're actually all around you. Same thing in regards to this. You have a family. Whether you have a wife or a husband, well, not in this scenario, but right? So whether you have a spouse or you have children or you have parents, right? These are all people, or brothers and sisters. These are all people you come in contact with. You have friends. You have a community. These are all people you engage with indirectly in many cases. We talked about that form of communication on a daily basis or weekly basis even, right? They see us. Daniel was talking about that example. What kind of example do we set? right? Are we a light to people? Are we a source of protection? Are we a source of strength? Are we a source of hope? Are we a source of reliability, dependability? Whatever. How do people see us, right? How are we putting ourselves out in the world to impact others? But the fact of the matter is we do impact others. Just like Daniel said, you have to ask yourself, am I impacting people in a negative way? Am I failing to live up to my potential? And thus, that's what people are seeing. Because people have an easier time, like I talked about, seeing the plank or the splinter in the other person's eye before they see the plank in their own, right? So they are looking at your behavior. You are always being watched, right? People are always, eyes up here, always paying attention up here. They're always paying attention to you. We're always impacting people, even if it's for the negative, right? Again, there's that quote that I shared earlier, which is, the lack of your best hurts everything, right? You still impact the world when you fail to show up. So the question is, the fact of the matter is, how are you impacting the world? Are you being influential in a good way or not? Are you living virtuously, and is other people seeing that or not? So that's why we want to talk about how you impact the world, so you can recognize where your influence plays a role, right? So, we named some of the common ones: brothers, friends, parents, children, etc. And so, but one of the biggest ways, as a man, how do you impact the world? I'll tell you. As men, we are called to be leaders. We are called to be leaders. Now, maybe that doesn't mean you're called to be, a king or a leader of an army, right? But you are called to lead somewhere in your life as a man. Whether that's as a parent, as a friend, in your community, at your work, whatever, right? So the question is, knowing you're called into that position, are you filling that position, right? Are you stepping up to the plate in that area? The other area is all men, whether they want to admit it or not, or want to think about it or believe it or what have you, is all men are called to fatherhood, right? That doesn't mean you have to have a child, right? But you are called to the fatherhood by filling what the father represents, right? What is the father? The father figure is a protector. He's a provider. He's a source of courage. He's a leader. He's someone people can turn to as a last resort, right? So you fulfill this paternal role as a man when you fill those areas in society, when you step into the position of leader or courageous individual who people need, right? The world needs courage right now. We'll talk about that in a bit, right? You actually fulfill your paternal destiny, your role as a father in society, right? You don't have to be a biological father. There's nothing wrong with that either, right? I've met many individuals, right? One was one of my closest friends at one point, and he was a father to his brother, his little brother, because his little brother didn't have a father figure, right? So, and I've met people who are called to fulfill the role of father in people who aren't even related to them. So here's the thing is, this is how we impact the world. As a man, we should be incredibly honored to be in this position, because this is what we're placed into. You can't change those circumstances. You got to suck it up, right? You got to take on, what's the thing Rollo Tomassi says? The burden of performance, right? You don't have a choice but to pick up the burden of performance, right? And to meet the expectations of the world. So you might as well do it with an attitude of blessing and gratitude, seeing it as something you're grateful for and expressing your gratitude for it. And when you do that, you find this inspiration in yourself. You feel the motivation build in yourself to continue, right? Once you get the ball rolling, right? Once the motion is there, it's easier to continue to let that momentum build.
Think about how the father is the protector, right? The father's basically the strength. And so just to think about how much that influences us, it just reminds me of, because I was watching this documentary, it's about Rome, and it was about Christian persecution in those times. And what happened was when one, I mean, it's first of all, you have to be incredibly strong to die for a belief, right? Right? Incredibly strong to die for a belief. And what would happen is there would be a persecution, and then they'd see, 10 other Christians pop up, 20 other Christians pop up. They keep persecuting. Another 10, 20. What happened was the influence of their strength. Reminds me of like the head of the Hydra, right? You cut off one, what happens is spread up more. So strength and having strength is so influential. People want to be with you. People want to be
Awesome.
Trust. They want to work with you, right? They want to be led by you. And so being strong yourself, right, makes that impact. Just doing your daily, just following your mission, right? People notice these things. People will see these things.
That's the importance of being on purpose, on discovering your purpose, right? How is it you're specifically, personally meant to influence the community right now, today, this year, next year, in the near immediate future, right? When you do that, again, well, one, you fill the void of your best that the world needs, and two, you are able to have that impact that only you, as a man, as a specific individual, can have.
Do you want archetype?
Yes, an archetype is basically a role model. It's something we can look up to. It's like the blueprint for a role model, right? For instance, I'll give you some common ones. Jesus Christ is an archetype. Do you want to be like God? You be like Jesus. Do you want to be the Marvel superheroes are archetypes that we see people every day engaging with, right? Everybody wants to be the Karate Kid. I'll tell you, when I was growing up, I watched the Karate Kid and I said, that's freaking badass. I said, I want to learn, martial arts right now. I want to get up off the couch, haven't even finished the movie, and start kickboxing people, right? He was an archetype for me. He was a young person who positively who had learned a skill and was able to compete, right? He had certain characteristics that represented him. So we're going to go into detail on archetypes, right? What's your favorite superhero, Daniel?
Iron Man.
Iron Man. There's a good one. Let me get one more. Does someone else want to volunteer?
Mine is Superman.
Well, all right, Superman. What's yours?
Captain America.
All right, now you're talking my language. What's yours? All right. 2 Supermans, 2 Captains, and Iron Man, right? Let me tell you something big about Iron Man, right? Who's Iron Man? He's like Batman. He's a man who, with his own personal abilities, created a suit of armor. And it wasn't just a suit of armor. It was a suit of armor that transformed him into God, basically, right? He could fly. Nobody could catch him. He was indestructible. He was invincible. Like, his suit of armor, like, had a super brain, like, better than his own brain, right? But it's realistic, right? It gives us hope. It inspires us because we see in the movies, he built his own armor, right? And it goes even deeper, which is awesome. And you'll see this in Superman. You'll see this in Batman. You'll see this in Captain America, right? They don't just take on the archetype of a god, so to speak. They take on the archetype of a warrior, right? They take on the archetype of someone, of a leader, of someone people can look up to, right? They put on suits of armor. That's what a warrior would do. And then they go out and they fight evil. That's what a warrior would do. They serve justice. That's what a warrior would do. They defend their homes. That's what a warrior would do, right? That's what Captain America does. That's what Superman does. That's what Iron Man does. And so, yes.
No, the brain is Superman.
Oh, yep. Oh, I was just pointing. So why is it important to have archetypes, right? Well, what happens when you sit in the movies, right? You get excited, just like I got excited watching Karate Kid. It inspires you, it motivates you. And even better, it gives you something to aim towards. It sets the goal. It gives you a role model. Did you have anything you want to say before I conclude?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one thing that Andrew mentioned, which I thought was huge, was, right, gives you hope. They give you hope. And you see this. I mean, we live through and we go through all these trials in our own lives and challenges, right? And what happens is it could bring us down, right? It could leave us hopeless. And so people look to these heroes in either relief or sometimes want to rely on their strength, right? And it's super inspiring, super uplifting to them, right? And maybe these superheroes have been uplifting, seeing somebody who's strong has been uplifting for you to witness. And so maybe you've been through that. And just like Andrew talked about, they become warriors, right? They might have it past and they might have gone through those struggles and through those challenges too, and have even still become what they are. And that's inspiring to see and gives you hope to see that happen. And so they have become hope for you. You can also be hope for others, right? By following in their blueprint, right? Aspiring to be like them, you can also be just like them and give hope back. And be able to inspire others that way too, and make your impact too. Because you see them making their impact. Now you can see how you can make your impact too by following a blueprint, right? And
Having a role model.
Yes, exactly.
Choosing an archetype. That's a big one, because that's what we need, right? Sometimes we find ourselves in those low down places. Where was Batman? Batman lost his parents. He watched them get killed. That's a pretty dark past, to watch your parents get murdered, right? And we understand this is, these are myths and these are fictional characters, right? But still, right? And then he falls into a cave, and he gets, as a child, falls into a dark place and gets scared, right? Has this traumatic event occur, right? We've been there. We hit rock bottom. We need hope. And that's what they do for us. They give us hope. And then they go out, provide good examples of leadership, impact their society, and provide more hope.